Hello and welcome to the Fantasy Football Funhouse. I am Kevin Cotillo, and of course, Sal Lito is here with me as well. What's going on, Sal?
Sup, yo?
Wow, that's a really professional greeting.
Hey, how are you, Kevin? What's shaking bacon?
I was going to say, I would have thought that given all your experience on national radio now, that you'd be a little more professional. But I like that you feel like you can let your hair down here. Obviously, congratulations to you. I did listen to a good portion of the Sirius satellite radio show you did with Scott Fish this weekend. It was great. You did a great job. You represented us well, and you gave a shout out to our good friend for his new baby girl, which was very sweet of you. For all the people that say you're a complete and total ass, they're very right, but every once in a while you do something nice.
Yeah, no, they're like 95% right, and I miss our friend. I mean, it's been a while.
It has been a while, but I think at some point, maybe he'll come back.
Guys, I've been here the whole time.
Hey, whoa!
Hey. I literally haven't missed an episode. I've been here for the last 4 episodes. You guys just have not acknowledged.
It's kind of impressive because I would have imagined that you would have said more, but then I think back at the other episodes, and it's kind of normal. It was amazing we thought you were gone.
Not even my longest streak of being ignored by you guys. It's pretty impressive.
How's everything going, Steve? Are you caught up on your sleep? Are you functioning as a normal human being? I know that when I had my daughter, I did not function well for like 3 months. So
yeah, it's been pretty good. The baby sleeps quite often. I have learned from having one weekend home with the 5-year-old not in school and the baby being here that summers are going to be hell. I understand all of that now for all parents with multiple children. My son, I think, has taken it. He's had the most adjusting to do. He has become very clingy, and it's been pretty fun, though. It's been great having the kids. I've missed you guys, or I've missed one of you guys a lot, and I'm glad to be back.
Steve, you want to tell everybody who's listening how many weeks off you get from work?
I have 7 weeks off from work right now. I'm currently in week 2. So 5 glorious weeks to go after this. I'm not upset that this is all happening right in the middle of football season. So 5 weeks left to go after this. I can't wait.
I had 2 days off when my children were born. 2 days.
Yeah, I got 5 days for my paternity leave.
That's not bad. California.
I appreciate it. So that's this 7 weeks. It's a 7 weeks state mandated thing. It's a
6 weeks is what the state gives me, and then I took a week of vacation as well.
Well, that's good. Another reason to move to California, except for the earthquakes and mudslides and all of that.
Wildfires?
I haven't felt the earthquake since '94 up here. All right,
fire.
A
lot of fire.
I'm not going to talk about the fires.
Let me say, Kevin, before you move on to both of you guys. 2 good dads I do this show with. I'm proud of both of you guys. As a guy whose children are teenagers, I was recently transferring over my old home videos. And my goodness, I was sitting there with tears in my eyes watching it. It goes by so fast. So as I saw Kevin take those beautiful pictures with his daughter for his wife's birthday, happy birthday to HR, by the way, a day late. Good. You guys are good dads. You're good husbands. And I love that about you. Very little else that I like about you, but that's awesome. So shout out to both of you guys for doing a good job.
Thank you. The fact that you're a good dad is pretty much the only thing that I like about you. So it may be the only thing I respect about you as well.
Not gonna lie, I'm slipping.
It's really your kids are older though, so you're allowed to slip. Oh, I think we lost Sal. That's fun. So
he's really slipping now.
When he says slipping, he means really slipping. So he has dropped off a little bit, so we'll continue on without him.
He's got the life alert though. I'm not worried about him.
Yeah, we know that he can call for help if he needs to. Yeah, it's not an emergency until he presses that button.
That's right.
That was a tricky movie. That was tricky, Kevin. You got rid of me.
I don't know how to rid of me. You said you were slipping, and then all of a sudden, gone. So
I'm back.
It's a good trick. We have a lot to get to, as we always do, given we only do 2 shows a week. Now, did you guys find that doing 3 shows a week last year was a little easier or harder?
I would say
It's a little here.
I would say it was a little easier. It seemed like things were coming in. Everything was a little more set. But I really haven't been doing much this year anyway. So,
well, I would say it was definitely harder from a time standpoint.
Yeah, it was much more of a commitment, but then again, we had some really good sponsors. So, shout out to Draft. So let's keep moving along here. We are going to go through the weekend's games. I know we're a day late. Obviously, we had some scheduling issues with Steve's no longer pregnant wife on drugs.
That's right.
And which I hear is good for us.
All right, prescribed.
Prescribed. Right. Sure. I should probably say that. That's good.
Yeah, it's gotta be careful because as we saw on the first episode of the Connors last night, Rose died from the overuse of opioid drugs, and that's not.
Yeah, I heard that on the radio today. I do not watch the show, nor will I ever watch the show. But I heard that they killed her off, huh?
I actually don't watch the show either. I didn't watch any of the episodes last year. Happened to be at my house that I pay for that I don't live in last night. And my son was recording it for his mom, and it came on, and I caught the beginning of it. I'm like, oh boy, they killed her. They killed her off with drugs. They didn't just give like a heart attack and let it go out. Like, okay, they're like, oh, you want to make racist comments on Twitter and screw us over? Here we go. You're a raving drug addict.
It was really it was awkward the way, like, the whole thing. Like I said, I heard the sequence of how they found out she died. It was like an autopsy report, and there was this whole discussion about it. And Dan Connor, when I was a kid, it reminded me so much of my dad.
He looks terrible, by the way.
Yeah, well, but yeah. So and just that whole scene was really awkward. Anyway, we can move along. We got to talk some football. Sal, as he usually does, is going to help us dissect this weekend's, the past weekend's game, Week 6. So we're going to get into all the trends that we saw, and I think Sal's got a page full of handwritten notes, maybe multiple pages, that he can share with us and go through some things, and we're going to talk about them. And Steve, if you could just make sure we're recording and do nothing else, that'd be great.
For all those people watching this on YouTube, this is a pen and paper. For those of you born after 1992, we used these back in the day, and I still write stuff down because that's what I'm comfortable with. So I want to go through a few things here, and I think we should start off with the quarterbacks. That makes sense, right? Because they're the most key position to a fantasy football team and an NFL team. Running backs really are, but let's get into a couple of different things. Right off the bat, Jameis Winston came back, and Jameis Winston jumped right in there. I don't know if you guys have ever caught the Sleeper Landmines article on Fanball that I write, but yeah.
Wait, that's you? That's Alito?
Jameis was my sleeper for last week. He threw for 30 for 41, 395 yards, and 4 touchdowns with 2 interceptions, 32.9 fantasy points. But, and Evan Silva posted this tonight, and I took a quick snapshot of it. Over his last 6 games, he has completed 68.3% of his passes, 8.83 yards per attempt, 329.8 yards per game, 13 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, 1 rushing touchdown, and just under 20 yards rushing a game. So Winston is pumping out fantasy numbers. And before he was injured last year, he was on pace to lead the league in passing. So is it a product of that offense? Because we saw Ryan Fitzpatrick do it when he was there as well. Or is this Jameis Winston, is he finally finding, he makes mistakes. They'll drive you crazy at the most inopportune times. But has Winston become a guy, Kevin, that you feel you could trust as a weekly starter in fantasy football with those numbers?
I think so, because I don't care if it's the system or if it's him or what. He's in the system, so he's going to be the guy either way. They're not going back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. They're going to stick with Jameis Winston, and he has shown that he can put up numbers. He's going to hurt you in leagues where you have any kind of additional penalties for interceptions, because he's not going to stop throwing interceptions. It's very clear that he enjoys it. So continue throwing interceptions, but he is going to put up numbers. I mean, he's not really a rushing quarterback, but he does get some yardage. As you mentioned, he had a small amount of yardage there. He's going to throw for a few touchdowns a game because he has the offensive weapons to do it, and they have absolutely no running game to speak of. I mean, Peyton Barber had a decent game in this one. I think he put up, like 92 yards and a touchdown, something along those lines. So, I'm sorry, 82 yards and a receiving touchdown. So, but other than that, they just haven't been able to get anything going on the ground, and I don't think they're going to. So I think you can expect to see Jameis Winston throwing the ball 40 times, 45, 50 times a game, and that's just going to lead to production. So I'm sticking with him. I like him for the rest of the season. I was lucky enough to grab him in Falafel, our league of record. I had Derek Carr and Mariota, who were killing me. Luckily, Winston was out there on waivers the week prior to him coming back, so I snagged him. I think it's going to help me out the rest of the way.
Yeah, the 16-teamer, that's pretty good.
Yeah, and just as much as Jameis Winston is more of a gunslinger type, and their defense is absolutely awful. And they're scheduled the rest of the way. They've got a pretty decent schedule in terms of who he'll have to face coming up this week with the Cleveland. So everything combined, I agree. I think he is somebody that you can definitely was a waiver ad, and that you can definitely plug in there and play matchups if you still have the guy that you originally drafted. But yeah, I picked him up last week. I know Sal did too, as a bye week fill-in for Drew Brees. And he might be somebody that you can just keep at the end of the bench just in case something happens, because he's a very viable fantasy quarterback.
I slipped him in where I had Andrew Luck, actually. I felt it was just a better matchup. And he was sitting there. He was just sitting out there. I grabbed him. This next quarterback, number 3 overall over the last 3 weeks. And the funny thing about that, Steve, is he's only played in 2 of them. So he's only played 2 games over the last 3 weeks because he had a bye. And he has the 3rd most fantasy points for any quarterback in the league. Do you know who it is, Steve?
No.
It's your favorite, Mitchell Trubisky.
Oh my God.
Mitchell Trubisky in week 4 before the bye completed 73.1% of his passes for 354 yards and 6 touchdowns. He added 53 rushing yards. And this past week, week 6, he passed for 71%, 316, 3 touchdowns, and another 47 rushing yards. Steven, is he doing anything to change your mind? The weapons are being used correctly. They have a lot of different good weapons here, and they're using them properly. Is Trubisky a guy we can start to rely on?
I don't know if he's quite there yet, but definitely his last few weeks that he's played are something to keep an eye on. I mean, they're playing the Patriots this week, so they're going to have an opportunity to showcase that offense a little bit more. Sorry, Kevin, your Patriots defense is awful, and I think that they're going to be able to exploit that. Not saying that they're going to win, but if this is going to be the route that they continue to go, if they're going to continue to utilize Trubisky like this and utilize all the weapons that they have, then yeah, he definitely becomes a viable quarterback, just like Jameis Winston is. If they're going to give him the volume to throw the ball around, he's got the weapons around him to help him succeed and do that. Their defense is good enough to give him a lot of opportunity. So yeah, he absolutely can turn that around and make it happen. I'm still a little skeptical if they're going to, keep their foot on the pedal like that, but definitely am paying attention to it.
Kevin, you're regretting picking up Taylor Gabriel and then dropping him before using him in Falafel?
No, because I like what he's doing, and they're clearly getting him involved. But he's still, to me, he's going to be that guy that'll be boom or bust. I don't know that he's going to do it every week, and 5 catches, 110 yards is not happening every week. That's for sure. They're getting him involved. I mean, he's seeing targets, so. Overall, I like the usage, but he's just not a guy that I think you can trust.
Okay.
And I do think with Allen Robinson and Anthony Miller, these are guys that, that you'll see more often, especially in Trey Burton as well. So.
All right. Well, we'll get into the position plays a little bit later. We'll talk about some of those guys in that offense. I want to talk about the guys that come in at number 9 and number 11 over the last 3 weeks. At number 9 over the last 3 weeks is Dak Prescott. So Dak Prescott has managed to find ways to get himself fantasy relevant. Now, a lot of it comes on the heels of an 82-yard rushing performance this past week, which gave him 29.5 points for the week when you put that in with his rushing touchdown and his 2 passing touchdowns. But he did have an 18.4 performance 2 weeks earlier. He's been doing a little bit better of a job spreading around the offense, not just using Zeke. Kevin, is Dak a guy you could see? I'm going to plug him in every week. I'm not concerned. Or he's still a guy you're looking to play matchups and you're going to use somebody else to pick up the other weeks.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the league you're in. A standard 12-team league, he's a fringe guy at best. You'll plug him in for, he's not even, he's not a top 12, so he's probably a guy that you're streaming with. So maybe he has a good matchup. You have another guy that's in that 13 to 16 range, and you're going to probably rotate the two of them. Deeper leagues, he's probably a starter. Their schedule is relatively beneficial over the next few weeks. He's got the Washington next after, and then a bye week. And then you're looking at Tennessee and Philadelphia and Atlanta and then Washington again. These are all teams that have given up a decent amount of points to quarterbacks. So I don't think any of them scare you. So he can be a usable guy over the next few weeks for sure.
Steve.
Yes.
I'm going to have you guess who this guy is now. We're playing guess the quarterback with Steve tonight.
That's great. That's great. Someone who's barely, got to pay minimal attention over the last couple of weeks. This is good. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to let you guess and I'll let Kevin guess also. So nobody look at your statistics. Put your statistics away. This quarterback over the last 3 weeks, point totals are 19.8, 22.7, and 18.9. He is quarterback 11 in that time. Steve, who's your guess off the top?
Oh, I'm going to guess Joe Flacco.
All right. And Kevin?
Can you give me the point totals again?
19.8, 22.7, and 18.9.
Oh.
That's what I said.
Yeah, I don't know who it is.
Steve, I'm going to give Steve a hint.
Okay,
Kevin has consistently said his last name incorrect on the podcast. He did not start the season as a starting quarterback for his team, but another one of Kevin's favorite people did. It is C.J. Beathard of the San Francisco 49ers. He has
How have I said that wrong?
You have said Beathard repetitively.
It is Beathard.
No, it's not. Well, listen to a game, for God's sakes. Guys, C.J. Beathard has come in. He's completed no less than 62% of his passes. He has passed for 245, 298, and 349. Exactly 2 touchdowns in each game. And he's running a little bit, about 20 yards a game, which is a nice extra 2 points. It's good to add to the total. Can he keep this up? Can he continue to use the weapons? We saw him get Marquise Goodwin involved nicely this past week. Brader has been steady. He has not fallen off much at all. Can he continue to get this done, Steve?
I don't see why he wouldn't be able to, although I think you have to worry they did just sign Tom Savage this morning. So look out. He's got a little bit of a competition now. But no, I don't see
Steve's bringing the fire in his first episode back.
That's right. What can I say? I've had a lot of time to write these jokes. Anywho, they're playing the Rams coming up this week. The Rams, their defense started out good, but they've taken a few hits at the cornerback position. Their defense hasn't exactly been what everyone thinks. These division games are a little bit tougher. 2 offensive minds. I think everyone remembers the game last year on Thursday night where these teams both put up over 40 points, I think it was. So yeah, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to keep this type of production up. Their defense, the 49ers, that is not great. So he's going to have to throw the ball quite often to try and keep pace with the teams that he's playing, or even if it's to get out to a lead like they did on Monday night against the Packers. So yeah, why not? I think that offenses this year are all going to, as long as you can throw the ball and you've got some weapons like they do have in Goodwin and Kittle, I think that the quarterback is going to be able to get some points. So yes, I think he can keep it up. I don't know if he's going to be quarterback 11, but he can be good.
How's this for a conspiracy theory? Beathard, as you like to say, plays a great season, and then the 49ers flip Garoppolo for a first-round pick.
To New England, right? He goes back to New England.
I mean, that would be phenomenal. Even the fact that Belichick gets swindled from a second to a first, I would still take it in a heartbeat.
Swindled.
Kevin, there is a new stud starting back in Miami. His name is Brock Osweiler, also known as Asswasher on this show. How stunned were you guys? Number one, that he was in the league. And number two, that to complete 28 of 44 for 380 yards and 3 touchdowns. And he helped lead them to victory against a Bears defense that has shredded the league this year. How crazy is that? And he's going to start this week. Tannehill has already been ruled out.
Yeah, that is crazy. Chicago now giving up the 11th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. I'm assuming most of it was based on this game alone because I think they were pretty solid going into week 6. But it's nuts. I mean, he was ass washer for a reason on this show, and I don't expect much out of him. There is a league I am starting both him and Derek Anderson this week, but you know.
Why?
It's okay. It's a bye week issue, but you know, it is what it is.
Is that translation for saying goodbye to your season?
Well, let me ask you this, guys, because here's the dilemma I'm in. Right, it's a salary cap league. I am potentially looking to. I have Eli Manning. I have Ben Roethlisberger, and
you're not going to start Eli Manning this week against the Falcons.
I have Derek Carr. Right. So here's the thing. Right. So Derek Carr and Roethlisberger are both on a bye week. I picked up Osweiler and Anderson today to just give myself some extra options. It is a super flex league, so I should start 2 quarterbacks if I can, right? I'm thinking about cutting Eli to save some cap money. It has to be done before this week because of the way the league rules work, right? So I either have to cut Eli and go with Anderson and Osweiler, or keep Eli and cost myself some cap money and start him.
Rather than get into the long, deep discussion of how big of a cap hit it is, how much it costs you, because we could go on a crazy tangent.
We're not going down that rabbit hole.
Let him go.
Wow. I think I'm gonna end up cutting Eli.
I really do. Prime matchup this week too. Oh man,
I know, but
you could pass for 350 and 4 touchdowns on the Falcons.
I don't know that Eli can. I don't know that Eli can.
Yeah, Kevin can, but can Eli Manning?
That's right. I know that I can.
So did you guys see this? Matt Hasselbeck said on Sunday on NFL Countdown that the Giants should do Eli a favor and trade him to Jacksonville. He's not better than Blake Bortles. He's not going to start Jacksonville. Why would Jacksonville want Eli Manning at this point?
You know what? You should call up that program because that's just blatant Bortleism.
That's straight Bortleism. I almost heard it. Straight Bortleism. All right, let's move over to the running backs. I mean, I don't want to talk too long about Todd Gurley, but how can we not talk about Todd Gurley and what he's doing in the NFL this year? This is from NFL Research.
Is he good?
He's fairly good.
Wait, Todd who?
Yeah, a Gurley, but not with an I. It's with a U.
Okay.
NFL
Research is a good follow on Twitter. If you guys want to follow, they post great relevant stats throughout the days and throughout the games, throughout the week. This season, Todd Gurley leads the league in rushing yards, 623, rushing touchdowns at 9, scrimmage yards at 870, and total touchdowns at 11. But he also leads the league in every one of those categories since he was drafted in 2015. 3,919 rushing yards, 38 rushing touchdowns, 5,469 total yards, and 46 touchdowns. And that is with a dead year playing under Jeff Fisher. So he's dispelled that myth that the number one running back cannot come back and do it the next year, because that's been a thing the last few years where they have not been successful the following year. So all the people that reached out and grabbed him, kudos to you. It's worked out.
Again, you really shouldn't be grabbing people without their consent.
No, you do it. He's a football player. He's used to it. But let's talk about this guy who's ranked number 2 overall right behind him, and that's Melvin Gordon. And Melvin Gordon's been getting used in a similar fashion to Todd Gurley this year. He's at 466 with 6 touchdowns and 30 receptions, which is 9 more than what Gurley has for 279 and 3 receiving touchdowns. So he's got 9 touchdowns himself. And that's what them giving Austin Eckler enough to keep him flex-worthy relevant in fantasy football. Steve, Melvin Gordon, can he stay healthy? Can we continue to see this type of production from a guy who's had some injury history in the past?
Yeah, I think we can. I think that Melvin Gordon is showing you all that he can do. The Chargers are using him. They are definitely committed. He's getting the volume that he was getting last year. Plus, they're also using him in the passing game, I think, a little bit more than, or at a faster rate than they were before. He's converting those passing opportunities. I think you just said he has 3 receiving touchdowns to go on top of his 6 rushing touchdowns. Yeah, I think that he can keep it up. And I think that the Chargers schedule has been good to them so far. And I think that as long as they keep getting out to these leads against teams and they use him in the red zone, they use him all over the place. So yeah, I absolutely think as long as he's healthy, he's going to keep it up. And there's no reason that he can't stay to that number 2 spot. I think Gurley's got the first spot pretty much locked up as long as he stays on the field. But yeah, Melvin Gordon is definitely a number 2 overall running back. Absolutely.
It's amazing to me. He's second or third in the league in fantasy points per game, depending on which statistic you look at. I'm looking at half point PPR, and he's 8th, 9th, I think, in the league in snap percentage. He's just being incredibly efficient this year compared to where he was before. I mean, last year and the year before that, it was a volume play with him, right? He was all about the volume. The fact that he was getting so many carries and just dominating touches, and he was getting in the end zone. This year, he's actually just being incredibly effective with limited usage.
All right, without looking at your stats or anything in front of you, who has the most receptions for running backs in the NFL right now?
You want to say McCaffrey, don't you? But it's not. It's not McCaffrey. He's had 2 games, I think, where he's gone without a catch.
I'll say Saquon.
It is Saquon Barkley at 40 receptions. And I took a look at Saquon's numbers over 6 games. And the fact that he's managed to get these numbers in that putrid offense with that putrid offensive line is amazing. But he has 438 rushing yards and 373 receiving yards. He is on pace to come up just shy of 1,000 season as a rookie. He would have over 1,100 yards rushing with 994 yards receiving at this pace. So technically, he's close to being on pace for 1,000 season in that terrible offense with 16 touchdowns. Is it possible, Kevin, for Saquon Barkley, who's just, he is every bit the player that people said he was? Now, does that help your team win games in the NFL? Apparently not. But could he be, and I would say he's got to be the first rookie if he does it. I haven't done the research on that, but I don't think I've ever heard it before. The first rookie to get 1,000 season in the NFL.
That'd be impressive. No one's ever gotten 1,000 before, and we all thought it was David Johnson or Christian McCaffrey was going to be the guy this year that had opportunity to do it. It's clearly not going to be David Johnson. McCaffrey, I guess he still could do it, but certainly not on pace. But to see a rookie do it is amazing. He has a 22% target share in his offense, and he has I'm looking at 380 yards after the catch. Is that right? That's insane. So, he's been phenomenal. I don't think you can take it away from him. And I think with 50 targets through 6 games, I don't see why not. Eli Manning can't throw it to anyone else.
By the way, he's also on pace for 106 receptions. So that would be impressive. 100 receptions, 1,000. It's 6 weeks. There's still obviously 10 games left to go, but it's not 2 weeks. It's not 3 weeks. It's starting to trend in that direction.
And they're going up against the Falcons, who have given up a ton of passes to running backs. That was the game that McCaffrey had 14 receptions, was against the Falcons. I know they gave up a ton of receptions to another running back the week before McCaffrey played them. So he is in line to get another 10 targets at least this week, because the Giants can't stop anybody on defense, and their offense usually is all Eli has time for is to drop it off quick before he gets hit by somebody. So yeah, he absolutely can hit that 100 reception mark, and why not get 1,000 yards? He's awesome.
Yeah, here's a stat that Graham Barfield put out. On 3rd down, Eli Manning is throwing 2.1 yards behind the first down marker. That's by far the worst distance to the sticks among any QB. 67% of Manning's passing yardage on third down comes from yards after the catch. So basically, he's dumping the ball off to Saquon, and Saquon is making things happen with it and building Eli's terrible numbers up to at least something somewhat decent. It's amazing how bad that offense is, or at least how bad Eli is with those weapons in it. Sony Michel has gotten 25, 18, and 24 carries, respectively, for totals of 112, 98, 106, and 4 total touchdowns. He has a tough matchup this week with the Bears defense, but we did see Frank Gore go for over 100 yards against them last week after nobody had really challenged them. Steve, I'll ask you, since we know Kevin's going to say yes. Can Sony Michel, can he keep up this type of a pace for the rest of the season?
That's a good question, and I'm not entirely sure that he can. I would like to think that he can because he is fun to watch. He's given the Patriots backfield something that fantasy owners have not been able to rely on, and that is a back that's getting consistent volume since he has come back from his injury. Now, he did miss the first few weeks and some preseason because of an injury, and he's had injury history in college as well. So that is the big question. Can he keep it up? I would like to think so. But it does worry me that, at some point something is going to happen. And I actually made a trade offer to somebody earlier today with Sony Michel in it, and just in a regular redraft league. And I don't know if we're going to talk about this guy, but I was trading away Sony Michel for a David Johnson. And
never heard of him.
Exactly. This way you got to strike early on these guys that you've never heard of. So I wonder what you guys would think about a trade for that. Which side of that you would want going down through the rest of the season?
Well, for me, we spoke briefly before we got on the air, Steve, about the schedule for Arizona. I don't think that means Arizona is going to win any games or that many games or whatever. But I do think the schedule, especially for the rushing defenses that coming up for David Johnson, are much more something he can handle and get some yardage in. And listen, they're going to have to get him involved. They have nobody else on an offense outside of Christian Kirk who's doing anything. So I would personally want David Johnson still in that scenario, because you never know when the tides shift in New England and they just decide to go in a different direction. It's very possible. Kevin, now tell me why I'm wrong.
Well, I guess the question I have for you with that logic is, what shift are they going to make, right? I don't see them changing their offense much. I mean, obviously they game plan. There's no question about that. That's why you'll see a guy like Sony Michel have 14 and 26 the next week, and then 15 the week after that. But having said that, Sony Michel is the guy that they're going to use in those situations for short yardage, for grinding out the clock, and as a change up when their offense starts to get a little too pass heavy. Bill Belichick loves to run the ball. We know that James White is going to be the guy in passing downs and that he can run the ball a little bit here and there. But for the most part, when he's on the field, he's there as a receiver. And with the rest of this offense finally intact and Josh Gordon starting to get a little bit more exposure in the offense, I don't see why you can't expect Sony Michel to have a minimum of I'm going to say 14, 15 carries a game. And with the way he's producing and the fact that he's gotten better with those carries each game, and add in the fact that they're a very high scoring offense, which means there'll be goal line opportunities for him. Yeah, I don't see why he can't keep doing this all year.
Listen, I'm certainly not going to argue with you, because I like Sony Michel, and the one redraft league where I actually have him, he sits nicely in my flex. And I have Barkley and Gordon too.
I've got the same setup in a league.
Oh my, it's great to play alone. But no, it's I'm not going to argue with that, Kevin. I really think Sony Michel is going to be good the rest of the year and continue to perform. I would personally just take David Johnson. If I had to choose one or the other for the rest of the year, I would take David Johnson, but I could easily see where it would go Sony's way.
What makes me nervous about David Johnson is we've seen what that offense has looked like, and I think they're going to get better as Rosen gets better, but they're just not. I have no faith in that coaching staff to put together a solid offensive game plan. They look terribly overmatched in just about every single game.
Yeah, he's not a good coach. He's not a good coach.
So for me, when you're using, your rookie running back that has no skills on third down and important situations instead of one of the best running backs in football, that tells me that you have no idea what you're doing, and I can't expect that to change until they fire him.
Ouch.
Yeah. Speaking of coaches who have no idea what they're doing, did you see this quote from Hugh Jackson today?
Oh, I thought you were going to bring
totally
John Gruden.
Yeah, I thought it was definitely going to be Gruden.
I'll get to Gruden in a second, but here is a quote from Hugh Jackson. I think we're a team that's learned to run the ball. We've run the ball decently. We're one of the better run teams today. We need to be able to score enough points to win. You got to score 24 to 28 points to win. Obviously, on defense, we need to stop the run. It sounds like a really bad children's book. I don't know what any of that means.
That's awful.
He's terrible.
Did you guys see that what I discovered today? There's a website called Is John Gruden Gone Yet?
I did see that.
Is John Gruden Gone Yet.com, and it's a running ticker of how much time is left in the 10 years and how much money he's making every second that he's there.
Oh, wow. That's great.
You know, it's funny to go back to your Hugh Jackson quote is Cincinnati's not even one of the better running teams in the league. They're 17th for fantasy points for running backs. Maybe that doesn't translate to rushing yards, maybe. I mean, I guess, but I think they're even worse when it comes to just straight rushing yards.
Yeah, he's just not good.
I could only imagine what the Browns would be without him.
Good.
Do you think they'd be good?
They'd be better.
I have no idea.
They'd be better.
I don't think they'll ever be good. Unless LeBron James goes to play there. I'm going to get into a couple of teammates. Let's get into a couple of teammates.
Well, they are better at sorry, I was looking at the wrong thing. They're a 10th. They're a 10th. So I guess they are one of the better teams.
I'm going to give you two teammates and their numbers over their last two games. First guy has scored 26.9 and 19.6, and the second guy has scored 2.5 and 4.9. Kevin, I'll let you guess first because I've been making Steve guess. What team do those two guys play for, and do you know who those running backs are?
What team do they play for, and who are the running backs? Give me the points again. I remember the second one. Who was the first guy? What was his points?
The first guy scored 26.9 and 19.6 over the last two games, and the other guy scored 2.5 and 4.9.
Is it the Cleveland Browns?
It's not. Steve, you got a chance to steal.
Wow. The pressure. I don't know what this is. I will guess the...
Watch football, bro?
Never heard of it. Never heard of it. I have no idea.
These two running backs play for the Chicago Bears, and the first player is Tariq Cohen. Tariq Cohen in week 4 scored 26.9, and in this past week, 19.6. Jordan Howard, whose snap rate over the last 4 games has gone from 73% to 62% to 54% to 51%, has scored less than 8 total points in the last 2 games combined. He has been dreadful. As Tariq Cohen has become more involved in the offense has become much more explosive. He's been a wonderful shoulder for Trubisky to lean on. I don't see why they would go away from something that has been explosive over the last 2 games. So, Kevin, tell me, what does this mean for Jordan Howard owners?
I'm one of them, and it's not good. It's definitely not good. It's making me very nervous. Cohen has been good. The only thing that I could say that might make myself and any of the other panicking Jordan Howard owners out there is that we've seen this before, right? New coaching staff, so you can't really use that necessarily, but we have seen it before. We've seen Cohen break out for a few games and then sort of fade and then go back to his typical role as a third down guy. So you have to hope that maybe that's what's going to happen. I don't know that he's a guy that they want, carrying the load, so to speak, on a regular basis for an extended period of time. I think they need to find the right balance. So hopefully they can get that back. But right now, I think Jordan Howard's in most leagues, it's probably on your bench.
Yeah, he's been on my bench in a few leagues that I've had him. Obviously, with the potential volume that he could get each week, in deeper leagues, you got to keep rolling him out there. But yeah, it's not even necessarily just a usage thing. It's that Jordan Howard, like Sal said, has looked awful all year long. I mean, he's had 5 games. They had the bye week already, but he has not looked good. He's been bailed out by a touchdown in the games where he's scored some viable fantasy points. But otherwise, you watch him run, he does not look good at all. Tariq Cohen, definitely the more explosive player, as we've known all since his rookie year last year. But if he's going to get more usage, and like we talked about with Mitchell Trubisky earlier, if this is how their offense is going to run, then yeah, Jordan Howard is going to be taking a back seat because he is not the type of player that Tariq Cohen is, and he does not work in that offense in the same way. So definitely a little bit worried with him right now, but hoping that things can turn around and he can get that touchdown usage up and definitely get a little more efficient as the season goes on.
All right, moving over to Baltimore, where Alex Collins owners have been just let down this year by his own fumbling, which has caused less usage for him overall, and especially inside the 5 and 10 yard line. This past week, however, Alex Collins got 19 carries. Now, he only gained 54 yards, but he did get 2 touchdowns on short yardage runs. Javoris Allen got 1 carry for 1 yard and saw 3 targets that he caught all of for 18 yards. Steve, going forward, should Collins owners be comfortable to plug him back in as a weekly RB2? It's only been 1 game, but we know that while Flacco's been better this year, and I have him as my sleeper this week, just mentioned it.
Where's that at?
It's fanball.com.
Oh, okay.
And do you think that he's back as a legitimate weekly RB2?
I don't know if I would be ready to just throw him back into my lineup right away. Definitely with this matchup they have coming up this week with New Orleans coming into town, you could definitely see that game as being a little bit more of a shootout, being some more points scored, which would tend to lead towards a more of a Buck Allen type game script. But as long as the Ravens are, they are in the lead and he's holding on to the ball, we saw what he could do last year when given the opportunity. And he has that type of, that skill set to be that kind of bruiser running back that runs the clock down for the Ravens, which is how they would really like to finish their games out. So he definitely has that chance. I don't know if I'm willing to just throw him back in there. I'd like to see it for another week because we've seen him have these solid weeks and then kind of vanish on us before. So I would be waiting at least 1 more week before I feel comfortable putting him back in there.
Kevin, you think based on touchdown upside, you got to get him in there?
Yeah, probably.
Kevin threw his shoulders up. He threw his shoulders up for those of you.
Yeah, I mean,
that
for
was
those of you who
shrug.
can't see, yeah, I don't know. I guess touchdown.
You've never liked Alex Collins, Kevin. Admit it.
That's false. I liked Alex Collins when he was in Seattle, and you know it. I was a big
He dated
fan.
Alex Collins in high school.
Well, when he got cut, I was sad for him. I thought he would have been the best running back on that team, aside from
You
CJ
pitied
Prosise,
him.
who still just needs a shot.
Him.
No, I don't know. I don't know. I don't trust the Ravens except for John Brown. I'll put it that way.
I'm just gonna go through these stats real quick, and then I don't even want to discuss these running backs. You ready?
Okay.
Green Bay. Aaron Jones' snap rate in week 6 was 27%, behind Jamal Williams, who was 38%, and Ty Montgomery, who was 37%. Over the 4 games that he is back and played, Aaron Jones has seen 25%, 38%, 27%, and 27%. This comes from Grant Barfield, and he writes, nothing has changed. And I don't get it. Now, Green Bay's winning. They won, I should say. And McCarthy's job is to win NFL games, not to win fantasy football matchups, right? So you can't get on him if he's winning, but it's just so blatantly obvious who the better running the ball running back is in that offense. I'm not going to give Steve an opportunity to rebut and talk about
he
that.
may
Kevin,
be winning.
you want to talk? Go ahead, bud.
Yeah, he may be winning, but he's not winning like decisively.
Yeah, it's not well. He's
not doing a great job. He's barely squeaking games out. So change something up, Mike McCarthy, and get the kid in there. Aaron Jones. I was a Jamal Williams guy as well. You can't defend him anymore.
No,
there's no way. Aaron Jones is just flat out better.
I agree. I'm not even. Sal thinks I'm going to sit here and defend Jamal Williams. I'm not blind. I understand that Aaron Jones is the better football player and he is the more dynamic player. Their offense would just be so much better if they just gave him a few series to let him do his thing. He's been it is frustrating to watch.
Jamal Williams blocked him on Twitter, so Steve's a little bitter now.
That's not true. That never happened. He doesn't even know who I am on Twitter.
Steve,
What?
you're also not deaf. You see that? Very good.
What?
You said you're not blind. I called your name. You answered. You're also
Come
not
again?
deaf. What?
What? Huh?
Over
All
the
right,
last 3 weeks, the Cleveland Brown running backs rank as follows. Number 29 overall, Carlos Hyde. Number 31 overall, Nick Chubb. And number 32 overall, Duke Johnson. They are just grouped up in a little mess. Steve, you've been off the show for the last couple of weeks, so we haven't been able to talk about it. Carlos Hyde has taken a little bit of a downturn. Not terrible, but definitely a downturn. We saw back in week 4, Nick Chubb have 3 carries for 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then the genius that is Hugh Jackson came out and said, we are going to get him more touches, to which he got 3 carries last week and 3 carries this past week. So what in the world are they talking about? And why, Kevin? Why, oh, why? Or Steve, I don't give a damn. One of you two guys. Will they not give Nick Chubb more run?
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Give the kid some more run. He's phenomenal. He looks so good.
Waffle, by the way.
Yeah, well, maybe true.
I agree.
No, but honestly, it's like the Aaron Jones thing. Like, I'm not saying he looks better than Hyde, but Hyde doesn't look great all of a sudden. So let's give the kid a chance.
Give the kid a chance.
I mean, does it have much to do with them not really being in the lead? Does Hugh Jackson say, we're not winning, so Nick Chubb can't be in there? Like, what? I don't understand it. I don't know why he's not. I don't get it.
Was that some kind of racist thing?
What's the point?
What? I don't understand that. Why would winning matter?
I don't know. He just doesn't feel comfortable. He doesn't want. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense.
The fact is, they're not winning anything. They're 2-3-1, so they're not. They're not far out of the lead, but they're not playing well. Get the kid in there. Let's see what he could do.
I agree.
You want Carlos Hyde to stay in there, don't you?
I just said I agree. Why do
unbelievable? He's a 10.8 yards per carry average.
I've traded Carlos Hyde in most of my leagues that I had him.
Good move,
10.8.
Steve, preseason, we said exactly that. If Carlos Hyde gets off to a good start, trade him immediately. So excellent. Well done, Steve. I'm glad to see you're listening to the show even when you are not participating.
That's right.
Okay. Let's move over to the wide receivers, where sitting atop the pile after 6 weeks is one Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen has 81 targets through 6 games, 58 receptions, 712 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Let me read off this little stat that I have here. Hold on a second. Also from Graham Barfield. In his 6 games this year, 12 targets, 6 receptions, 102 yards, 13 for 12, 131 and 1, 19, 14, 105, 12 for 8, 135 and 1, 10 for 7, 116 and 1, 15 for 11, 123 and 1. The first player to have 6 receiving, 100-yard receiving games to start a season. He is playing phenomenal. I ask you, is Adam Thielen the best wide receiver in the NFL right now, Steve?
I mean, I don't see why not. I will say, yeah. He's getting the volume. He is getting, you just read the targets that he's getting every single week. The Vikings defense, not what it has been. So, that coupled with Kirk Cousins fumbling or throwing an interception every single game, they have been playing from behind quite often. And even when they're not, they've been throwing the ball with Dalvin Cook being injured. Their run game hasn't been what it was last year. So, yeah, I think that he can continue what he's been doing. I don't think the 100-yard games are necessarily going to continue every single week, obviously. But, yeah, I think he's going to lead the league in targets this year. I think he's going to lead the league in receiving yards. And, I don't see why he's going to slow down much. He's been great. Kevin?
Yeah, Steve, you failed to listen to the question, I believe, because what he said was, is he the best receiver in the NFL right now? So let me rephrase the question for you and put it this way. If you were starting an NFL team today and you had to pick a wide receiver to put on your team, Is Adam Thielen the first guy you're going to choose?
No,
he's not. He's not.
no, no, he's not.
Who's in the corner, Steve?
No, I mean, look, for fantasy purposes, absolutely. He's on an absolutely incredible run. I think that it will absolutely keep up. I think that they're going to continue to feed him. So I like what he's doing this year. He may finish as the top fantasy wide receiver this year. He's not the best wide receiver in the game. He's just not. But I agree with everything else you said, Steve. And I think that, from a fantasy perspective, yeah, he could very well finish up there. But why are we talking about Adam Thielen, Sal? Everyone's starting Adam Thielen. No one's benching Adam Thielen.
I talked about Todd Gurley, all right? When two guys are off that kind of a tremendous start, we talk about them real quick. I'm going to move on to four other guys then, Kevin. Prepare to unmute yourself.
Thank you.
Finishing 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th this week, all, by the way, right above Adam Thielen, who finished 7th. Albert Wilson. Albert, there's an R in there. Albert Wilson, Marquise Goodwin, Cole Beasley, and Tyrell Williams. Those are the wide receivers that finished 3, 4, 5, and 6 this week. I guarantee you 3 of them were not in most people's lineups. Maybe some people had Goodwin in there. I had Tyrell Williams in Pigs 3 because I have a terrible roster and I needed to put him in there. It's not like I was a genius by doing it. But I asked you, Kevin, can any one of those 4 guys or multiples of those 4 guys, can they remain relevant this fantasy season?
So let me give you a story about the guy who I think might remain relevant. I'll give you one of my saddest fantasy stories in quite some time. Marquise Goodwin is a guy that I do think can remain relevant because I think he might be the most talented receiver in that offense and a guy they're going to have to lean on. My Marquise Goodwin story this week starts with the news that Geronimo Allison was not going to play in Green Bay. Now, typically in a league, a dynasty league that I'm in, I have him and I've been playing him because he's had a pretty decent season. Heard that he was out, meant to go change him, did not change him. Came down to Monday night, realized, whatever, I can't change him now. There's nobody else to put in. Turns out I had Marquise Goodwin on my bench. I forgot all about it because he hasn't played pretty much all season. So I forgot that I could have swapped out Goodwin for Geronimo. Now that's sad enough, right? That you miss out on 30 points because you didn't make the switch. What was even sadder is that it wouldn't have mattered. I got blown out so bad in that matchup that 30 points would not have helped me. So I was miserable that I forgot, and then when I looked at the score, I was even more miserable that I got slaughtered that badly. But Marquise Goodwin is the guy that I think can be relevant. I think that they're going to lean on him a little bit. He's explosive. He's probably the best receiver, like I said, in that, unless you're still a Garcon fan. But I think between him and Kittle, those are the guys that they have to lean on in that passing offense. So he's the most likely to be relevant the rest of the season, in my opinion.
As soon as Goodwin scored his first touchdown, I immediately jumped into the Falafel chat and offered to trade him to anybody who would take him.
So you disagree then?
No, I think that he could be good, but I need running back help. So I have
hey, Nick Chubb's available
for Marquise Goodwin.
No.
I might be overpaying.
Absolutely.
Well, we could talk, obviously. Steve, what do you think of Tyrell Williams? Keenan Allen is the 25th overall wide receiver through 6 weeks. He has 1 touchdown this year. Tyrell Williams caught more than that on Sunday. So you think Williams can remain relevant? Does Keenan Allen get it going?
I don't know. I think the bigger concern or the bigger question would be Keenan Allen because he was the much more costlier player in draft season. I believe he was going mostly late 2nd, early 3rd round because of his season last year. And he just has not been able to put up the production that he had last year. Although I think a vast majority of his production came down the stretch last year. He really turned it on towards the back half of the season. But I think there's a lot of options for the Chargers right now for Phillip Rivers. He's got Mike Williams, Tyrell Williams. He's got Travis Benjamin whenever he comes back. He's got Keenan Allen. We talked about Melvin Gordon and how he's being used in the pass game a little bit more. Austin Eckler there as well. So I just think there's a little bit more to go around. Tyrell Williams, I think, is a Deshaun Jackson type player. I think he's going to burn a lot of people the next time that people put him in his lineup, because I don't think he's going to necessarily put these numbers up. I mean, he had 80 yards and a touchdown in one drive. But that type of stuff's not going to happen every single week for him. So I don't know if I'm ready to rely on anybody outside of Keenan Allen for the type of weekly volume there. So I think you start him at your own risk. I'm not ready for that yet.
Not ready for that kind of a commitment?
Yeah, it's just I've been hurt too many times.
Kevin, I'm hoping you're not looking at your statistics right now.
No, I'm watching the Red Sox game.
This wide receiver over the last 4 weeks has put up point totals of 28.7, 18.6, 17 even, and 15.6, and he ranks as the number 6 overall wide receiver on the season. Can you guess who that is for me, Kevin?
Well, it's not Amari Cooper.
No, Amari Cooper, by the way, when we get to it, is somewhere below 50 on the season.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. Man, there's just so many wide receivers to select from. Is it? I don't know. I really don't know.
It's Robert Woods.
Okay.
It's the number 6 overall wide receiver. As we know, Stevie's little Cooper Cup, Matthew Berry's little Cooper Cup. He's going to miss at least this week with an absolutely shitty tackle by somebody from behind that damn horse collar tackle. That's exactly the reason why they eliminated it from the NFL, because it does that. Thank God nothing was broken. He actually came in the second half of that game. We've seen the ball get spread around there pretty good, but Woods has been very consistent. Woods has 51 targets, 36 receptions, 524 yards, 3 touchdowns. He also has 7 carries for 84 yards. They're using him at least once a game to do an end around. Can he remain a top 10 wide receiver the rest of the season, Kevin?
Yeah. Top 10's tough. That's really high up there. I think you're going to see a lot of ebb and flow with what's that?
All the way up above 11.
It's right. Yeah, it's above 11. See, if you had said 11, I'd say no brainer, but 10 pushing it. No, I mean, I think he's going to be that fringe wide receiver 1. So somewhere between 10 and 14, maybe we'll give him on the rest of the season. So yeah, he could, but I don't think he's getting any higher than that. And I don't think that he's going to be, I don't think he's going to finish 10. So I don't know. I love Robert Woods. I think that Jared Goff has a rapport with him. He targets him for sure. With Kupp out, I think that it's, he'll see a little bit more action, but not too much. I don't think they're going to change that offense too much. But you'll just see some of the other pieces get, I don't know. I think that he'll be pretty steady, but top 10's pretty tough.
By the way, Cooper Kupp comes in at number 10 before the injury. So they had 2 top 10 wide receivers through 6 weeks.
Which can't be that far down either. I'd say he's probably top 24, right?
Who's that? Cooks is, number 23.
Yeah.
So pretty nice
quite offense. The offense, huh?
Yeah, they're pretty good.
All right.
Into that sort of thing. This wide receiver over the last 5.
Can't be the great show on turf anymore, though, huh?
No,
it's not turf.
No, it's not turf. It's grass. It's LA, baby. This wide receiver over the last 3 weeks has saw his numbers go in this direction. 22% of the snaps, 9 routes, 6% target share, 6% of the air yards. 26% of the snaps, 18 routes, 9% target share, 28% of the air yards. And in this past week, 81% of the snaps, 35 routes led the team, 26% target share led the team, and 29% of the air yards also leading the team. And that wide receiver is Josh Gordon of the New England Patriots. Steve, you want to guess?
Yeah, I wanted to guess that one, and that's who I was going to guess. And
all night I'm asking you guys. I said, let me just get to the point. I see Steve get angry. Steve, tell me why you knew it was Josh Gordon.
Because I've seen that his usage and the way that Tom Brady has been targeting him has gone up each and every week. He's had no injury setbacks at all. Tom Brady in their defense has not been a typical, New England defense. They've given up a ton of points, which we do see from time to time. So Tom Brady has had to throw the ball more and more, it seems. And you always see him out there. And so I like that Josh Gordon has been out there more. Although as a Gronk owner in quite a few spots, it's been a little scary seeing his usage. He's not getting the type of red zone targets that he's typically been getting in seasons past, and that worries me a little bit. But yeah, seeing Josh Gordon getting the type of usage that he's been getting has been very good. Although I'm wondering what Kevin thinks about Edelman being back, if that takes a huge chunk out of that, and if people should be more concerned about Edelman coming back and taking some of that volume away.
I don't think so. We saw, Gordon's first game was the week before Edelman came back, and then the last 2 games, obviously, he's had 4 and 9 targets with Edelman on the field. I think last game, the Monday night game, they clearly forced the ball to Gordon. What is exciting to me, if I'm a Gordon owner, is the fact that Brady trusts him in situations down by the goal line. He's trying to get him the ball. Like I said, 9 targets, 5 receptions. But you saw some of those back shoulder fade type plays or tosses to the outside for Gordon. I think there was 2 plays in Monday night game where that was the case. And Gordon wasn't in the right spot, right? Which is, you would think, is bad. But I'm saying it's a good thing because Brady trusts him and is giving him multiple opportunities to do that. And eventually they're going to get on the same page with that as Gordon gets to know this offense and gets to know Brady a little bit more. And those plays are going to be absolutely lethal when he gets that rhythm with Brady, because if he can make those back shoulder, turnaround catches where the defender has absolutely no chance, Gordon can break tackles and then be gone for a touchdown. So those plays are going to be deadly. And I think that you're going to continue to see his volume be in that 8 to 10 target pass, target zone, and can only lead to good things as he gets more familiar with Brady.
So we spoke about Woods and Kupp, but also the following wide receivers are top 24 wide receivers. So fantasy starting wide receivers in 12-team leagues over the first 6 weeks. Tyler Boyd comes in at number 13. Calvin Ridley at number 15. Deshaun Jackson, number 17. Tyler Lockett, number 18. Kenny Golladay, number 21, Albert Wilson, number 22, and John Brown, number 24. The following guys are 25 or lower: Keenan Allen, Demaryius Thomas, Michael Crabtree. Let's keep scrolling down here. Allen Robinson, Marvin Jones, and Amari Cooper. So we have seen a big changeover to wide receivers that some were definitely not drafted in your drafts. Some were flyer guys late, turn it over. So you really have to be quick on your toes in fantasy football and get those waiver wire claims in and adjust, and don't hold on to guys that you drafted too long, because if you held on to guys too long, you're losing. It's the reason why you're 2-3, or what is 2-4 right now, or 1-5. Make moves, make trades. Don't get stuck on these guys, because we see this specifically with wide receivers every year. It's why you get those running backs a little bit early, because there are guys that can be found at these positions. Guys, who surprises you the most, if you remember those list of names, that's either in or out of the top 24?
Just before Steve answers that question, one caveat to that, because you said you got to get rid of these guys. No one's suggesting you drop a Keenan Allen or a guy like that, right? Because there are guys that are in that 25 and up that are surprising. Don't drop them, but be willing to take them out of your lineup, I think is more to Sal's point. I think that's probably what you meant. I don't think you're telling anyone.
Meant more of adding, you probably had guys so that were able to be dropped, and adding the guys that are in the top 24, or moving or trading any of those people. Yeah,
100%. Of course. I just wanted to be clear. Don't drop the guys. they could turn it around. They're talented players for a reason, but get those guys that are on the hot streaks in your lineup for sure. All right, Steve, go ahead and answer his question.
Yeah, I was gonna say somebody that I think is surprising that is up in this top 25, but I think has a very good opportunity to stay up there throughout the entirety of the season is somebody that Kevin used to talk about all the time, and that's Tyler Boyd. I think that Andy Dalton is playing well enough to sustain the two wide receivers in AJ Green and Tyler Boyd. And I think that just the way that their offense has been moving throughout the season, they're getting everybody involved, including Mixon. They were getting the tight end involved a little bit before Eifert got hurt. And so that just more targets opened up for the wide receivers and for Mixon. So I think Tyler Boyd is somebody that you're going to be able to rely on at a flex position at the very least, because he didn't cost you anything during the draft. You should have been able to add him early on in the season. And so I think that he's definitely someone I'm surprised to see in there, but hope that think that he will stay in that top 24 range throughout the rest of the year.
Yeah, I guess one of the guys that I'm most surprised to see up there is, I can't say Tyler Lockett. I knew that this day was coming, so I can't say that. Emmanuel Sanders is a guy that I think I'm surprised to see up in that top list. I don't know if you mentioned him or not, Sal, but I'm looking at the top 24 right now, and he comes in at 14. So
who was the player?
Emmanuel Sanders. And just for me, that's fantasy points per game, and I'm shocked because I didn't think it was going to be him. I thought that Case Keenum coming in might revitalize that offense. I thought it might be, I thought Demaryius Thomas would be a guy that would benefit from that and that we'd see him have a kind of a resurgence. He's been downright awful. Emmanuel Sanders has been very good. I don't see it continuing. He's one of those guys that I think you're going to see one of those other guys you listed that are surprises to be outside the top 25. When they jump back in, Sanders is a guy that I think will continue to fall off for the rest of the season. But he is one that strikes me as a surprise.
I'm going to disagree with you only because Keenum loves to throw out of the slot. Sanders is playing a ton out of the slot. And I'll read this statistic to you that Evan Silva posted. Wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders had 0 red zone targets in weeks 1 through 4. Over the last 2 weeks, Sanders has 5 red zone targets, including 3 inside the 10-yard line. Nearly had 2 touchdowns last week, was ruled out at the 1-yard line by a replay on the first. So I actually see it picking up for him. Right now, I do have a lot of stock of both of those players because where I couldn't get one, I got the other. I did think Demaryius Thomas was gonna have a return to a solid year with a serviceable quarterback, not a guy that's gonna make a huge difference overall, but be able to get the ball to his receivers. But they want to get the ball into Sanders' hands. They're giving him the ball to run it. They're getting it in his hands any ways possible because he is a playmaker. So I disagree with you on that one, but, I've been wrong once or twice before.
And, you got to disagree with me every once in a while. We always agree, so.
It's never fun. It's not good radio.
It's not fun for anybody. Let's just wrap up these tight ends real quick so we could get out of here. Steve, who leads the NFL in tight end touchdowns?
Is it still Jared Cook? Is that the guy?
That's right. Eric Ebron with 6.
Oh,
Three more than any other player in the NFL. Jared Cook. Quick stat here: TJ Uzama ranked 4th among tight ends in routes run, 4th among tight ends in air yards, and number 8 in snaps and number 8 in targets. In week 6, he faced the Chiefs this upcoming week, but add him because everybody else is hurt in that offense, and we know how much he's. What's that guy over there? The red guy, Andy Dalton. He likes to use the tight end.
Red guy. I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
David Njoku in Baker Mayfield's 3 starts in week 4 led the team in catches. In week 5, led the team in targets. And in week 6, led the team in catches and targets. So we're starting to see him head up. Jarvis Landry. I forgot to mention Jarvis Landry in the list. Number 31. Another disappointing player so far outside of the top 25. We're starting to see David Njoku, Kevin, who we spoke about when Steve was away, elevate himself as the number 2 guy in an offense, is currently asserting himself as the number 1 guy in an offense. I don't know if that will continue, but you got to love the opportunity that he is getting currently with Baker Mayfield as the quarterback. Guys, that's it for this week. Steve, take us home, brother.
All right. Well, thank you guys for listening to this episode of the Fantasy Football Funhouse. You can find us on Twitter at FF Funhouse. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And of course, you could go to fantasyfootballfunhouse.com And that's it. That's all I got for me.
Guys, check out our sponsors. We are on the Gridiron Experts website. We are on their feed along with a couple other great shows. You can go to their site and check out everything you want to find to get you through your weeks every week, including DFS. Go to thequantedge.com, use the FF Funhouse, and get $10 off your monthly order. Thequantedge.com is killing it. They have added MMA, I guess we'll call it UFC. They have added basketball. They're starting to expand into all different areas. Again, they post every Monday, the Transparency Mondays. These guys are crushing it. They are winning you money if you are paying attention. Go to the Quant Edge now. It makes a big difference. FF Funhouse.
Full bags too, Sal. You want to mention the full bags because if anyone could use one, it's probably Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you go to Full Bags, F-U-L, fullbags.com, Funhouse, the password is just Funhouse to get the discount there. We'll do them more in depth tomorrow night.
You hear that? You hear that, Steve? Get little Posey a full bag.
A full bag.
She's probably got a lot of the other full things. She's been giving me
full bags for the last week and a half. So,
and as always, I just want to wrap up the podcast by reminding you to add a charitable experience to your fantasy playing experience. I guess I said that twice, but definitely add some charity to your league, whether it's donating a league fee or getting out there and spending some time together doing something for others. It'll help you feel better about yourself for playing a game about a game. We'll be back a little later in this week, and Steve, I think, will be there again.
No promises.
Give us some feedback. Let us know, because we got a lot of positive feedback with Steve out. So I'd like to hear how bad it was with him back. And until then, see ya.